because it's almost Yud Tes Kislev, which is the holiday, big holiday for the Alter Rebbe when he was released from prison. So we're going to finish chapter 8 on time for Yud Tes Kislev, the Rosh Hashanah of Hasidus. Where did we get to? I'm looking for the page. Here we are. We're on page... Oh, we're missing the last pages here. Where did he go?
No, he printed out.
There's
another one.
No, but it only goes to page 190.
No, he printed out from 190 from.
Well, this one goes only to page 190.
He said he was printing out some that went through.
Oh, here's some more.
I don't know if those.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
I get it. So, do you have these? Yeah, there's two there.
Do you have that?
Yeah, there's one for you. Okay. There we go.
Thank you.
So there we go. Page 190 and on. I hope you have anything. Yes. Okay. So this is what's happening now. Last we left off, fight between Kedusha and Sitra Achra. Who was winning? So last we left off, everything you do is an investment. Remember that line? Everything you do, you say, or even thoughts that you think, you are investing your emotions into something. You want to invest your emotions into Kedusha. You don't want to invest it into Klippa. But then in Klippa investments, there were two kinds. There's the Klippa investments that you could still pull them out of there, right? Because you can still try to bring it back to Kedusha. And then there's the type of Klippa investments where it's stuck. It's stuck. And it's very hard work to pull it back. So we found out in this chapter that the Yetzer Hara of a Jew, does not want to get stuck. He's only interested in things that are the type of klippa is negative, things that are not asur. Because if it's asur, you're going to get stuck. But he's only interested in indulging in things that are mutar, they're untied. So that even though for the moment it's klippa, for right now, okay, he's disconnected, but he'll be able to connect back again. Because even your Yetzer Hara doesn't want to become distant, connected from God. That's even the Yetzer Hara of a Jew. And what can happen is so much indulgement, it gets to the point that it loses that sensitivity as well, and you gain a non-Jewish Yetzer Hara. But we don't want to get there. So then there's also the same, the Jewish body is that way as well. A Jewish body doesn't really accept things that are asur, tied down to the Sitra Achra. And we learned the halacha that if you tell your workers that you're part of the deal is that you're going to feed them, right, in return for their work, like work for food type of thing. I remember I came to my wedding in Buenos Aires. I got married in Buenos Aires. And I know my father-in-law is not a wealthy man, he's an engineer, professor, but he's not a wealthy man. And I walk in, there's this huge orchestra playing there, a big orchestra. I turned to him, I said, where do you get? He said, all I have to do is feed them. They work for dinner. That's it. Musicians there work for dinner. Okay. So if you're telling your workers, and they're Jewish workers, that part of the deal is you're going to feed them, and then after you fed them the meal, you discover it wasn't kosher. You owe them the value of the meal. Why they ate food? A Jewish body is not satisfied from unkosher food. Amazing thing. Not satisfied. That's why I have so many dissatisfied Jews. Next thing is just time you see a Jew kvetching, tell him it's probably you made something not kosher. Dissatisfied. So to the point that the stuff that remains in the body, not kosher food, has to get beaten out of the body after the person's passing, because now that animal soul has left the body feels, oh, this stuff doesn't belong in here, let's get rid of it. So there's that rotting in the grave that happens, the decomposition of the body. That's painful for the body to get rid of that. And then that's said the same thing now with the soul. A person speaks words that are not kosher words. So there's two kinds. There's types of words that you shouldn't be speaking, but they're klippus noga. They're mutter, but it's still klippa. Like just wasting your time doom scrolling, watching garbage on TV, whatever, just talking about nothing. So it could be permissible. It could be permissible because maybe you don't have the brain right now for doing something serious, but you're indulging in it. It's more than necessary, and there are better things to do. Okay, there are always better things to do. So then that's klippus noga. So it could still be pulled back again, perhaps in some way, but who knows? But the bad stuff is talking bad about somebody, hurting somebody's feelings with your words, saying things that are not true. So those types of words, those are asur, they're forbidden. You're not allowed to hurt someone's feelings with words. It's called onah. It's forbidden, especially if they are an orphan, a widow, or especially if they are a convert. And if it's your wife, then it says she starts crying. That's the bad. So that's forbidden. That's forbidden talk. The same thing about saying things that are not true, or even just gossip, talking about somebody things that are not. You don't have to hear.
Anyone or specifically Jewish people?
What?
About anyone or specifically Jewish people?
Well, there are certain people that you can say bad things about because they're bad people.
Right.
And people have to know.
Okay.
But they say, I never saw this, but somebody told me, I have to look into it, that it's permissible to talk Lashon Hara about the cook. Why? Because you always have to be suspicious of the cook. Like the butcher probably as well. You always have to be suspicious. Okay, somebody like, I don't know whoever said that, but yes, it depends on who the person is. If it's a person that's well known to be a wicked person, everybody has to know. We don't have to make up stories about it. It's a big question about leaving reviews. When you're leaving a review of a product or a company, so are you allowed to announce to the whole world that they did something not nice to you? Or you got their product and it was lousy, or something like that. Is that considered Lashon Hara? So a friend of mine, Yudah Shurpin, wrote an article on it. And he says that if you've done all you can to try to get reconciliation from the company and so on, once you've done that and you want people to know, then it's not Lashon Hara. But just to go and leave a lousy review without doing anything before would probably be Lashon Hara.
Well,
Okay, so
Rabbi, what if it's to prevent a loss of income? I mean, loss of money. Let's say a product is not good, and you're trying to prevent other people from losing their money.
Once you've told other people, once you've talked to the vendor and done whatever you can, and they're not being cooperative, then you could leave. You can leave that review. Sorry, you're going to say?
What if you're a doctor and someone gets mad at you because you won't prescribe them something? They could write a nasty letter in on the internet and just wreck them.
About the doctor?
Yeah.
Oh, because the doctor didn't do what you like or something like that.
Yeah.
Or maybe he had good reason for not giving you, morphine or something like that.
Well, exactly.
Yeah, and writing this nasty review about him. So anyways, apparently most of the reviews online aren't even written by people. So nobody believes them anymore. Okay, so those are forbidden words. So those affect the soul, the nefesh. And the nefesh means both the animal soul and the divine soul, both affected by those words. And those words are stuck there. And we say that the nefesh now needs to be cleansed from that. And there are different types of cleansing. We said that one type of cleansing was the slingshot thing. Remember the slingshot? You taken, this is Gan Eden, you like it? Oh, nice. And then you're pulled back into the stupidity of this world. And you see yourself doing all these, saying all these stupid things. And, how can I be involved in those stupid things? Like you sing Gan Eden, and then all of a sudden you see yourself scrolling through all this stuff on X again. That's really painful. It's absolute pain. It's absolute pain. Can you imagine? You get the glance of the beauty, wow, this ecstasy, it's bliss. And then you see yourself watching some stupid Netflix where this guy's killing this guy and this guy's killing that guy. And you think, how stupid, I wasted my time down there with these stupid things. I could have been like in that world. I could have had what I could never get in this world. And it was investment, and everything I'm getting in this world now, I could have invested in, and so that's painful. And like I was explaining, that the way healing comes through pain. Pain is when you recognize there's something hurting me and you get rid of it. So that's what's happening in all of these processes. You're getting rid of this bad baggage because you're noticing it and it's hurting you, and then you're able to get rid of it. You're going to say?
It was a very specific question on reviews, actually. I used to get given free goods by Chinese vendors to give a 5-star review on Amazon. So it was disingenuous, but the review was very glowing. Is that acceptable? Because the review is glowing, even if the product may not have been.
It's called, in the Torah says, midvar sheker tirchak. Stay far away from something false.
Right.
Not don't lie. Stay far away from a lie.
Right.
Even something that might be a lie. The example given is you're standing in front of the judge and the other litigant isn't there. So you start explaining your case. It's dangerous because you may not be lying, but it's very close to a line. It's too easy to come to a line. So stay far away from that. So even in a case where you feel, I'm not hurting anybody, nobody's being damaged from this. If you're hurting somebody, then it's damages. It could be robbery, something through your words. That's called genevas das. You steal from somebody by telling them an untruth. But even if there's not that damage done, you yourself are hurting yourself by allowing yourself to say something not true. And every time you say something that's not true, you're doing it because you're getting some sort of reward from it. In other words, you are investing yourself in this lie. And now a part of you remains there invested within this lie that's online, and every day somebody else is reading it. So you don't want to be there.
Okay.
That's the thing again. It's not just that you wrote this thing. You left a piece of yourself out there, and you're inside it. And you want to know, when I get to Gan Eden, do I want to have that piece of me and stuck in there? You know? So that's what we explain that the more serious cleansing for things that are really osur, if a person didn't do a complete tshuva on it, is Gehinnom. And Gehinnom is misunderstood. Gehinnom isn't God saying, I'm going to get you back for that. That's not the way God works. It's that now the person experiences the pain of this stuff because it's the anathema to his soul. So we talked about things that a person did out of fire. He felt he was on fire. I just can't help myself. Like losing your temper. Or just pulled after something that you know you shouldn't do, but you can't help yourself because I'm burning, I'm on fire about it. So that's what most of the things we do wrong is that sort of a fire. So there's a kingdom of fire. What kind of fire? Not the type of fire that comes with a match. The real fire, the fire that burns inside us, but a much, much bigger one. So now you experience that fire that got you to do this, and so you reject it. You get rid of it. Or there are many things a person does wrong because they're cold about it. I don't feel like doing it. It doesn't excite me. So experience that coldness, get him shashalak. Well, all of them are really a chesed. They're a kindness to the soul to cleanse you. This is the way you get cleansed. So those were those things. Then we got into this whole area of devarim b'telim. It's a good term to know. Devarim b'telim, which literally means empty words. But words are what make up our life. But all these things are wasting time. So if you have nothing better to do, okay, so it's not so bad. But if you're capable, you have a mind, you're capable of learning Torah. You have some spare time right now. Pick up a sefer, start learning. Something useful, something valuable. So bittul Torah is an issue. And so we say it's also the same sort of thing. It's also something that's an isser that has to be burnt out. Okay, then we said about sorry, what?
Is that small talk? Is socializing with people?
All of those things, all together, all called devarim b'telim. It could be just, I don't know, sitting and doing this. It's daydreaming. It's all devarim b'telim. I'm trying to remember. There's a book with all these quotes of what non-Jews had to say about Jews. And one of the common things that non-Jews always had to say about Jews is that they're always going somewhere. They're always doing something. Right? Because the non-Jewish life, you spend most of your time, staring into space, I don't know, doing nothing, just shooting the ball, The Jew is always, there's something happening over here. You're up to something. You're living a constructive life. Devarim b'telim is non-constructive. You're doing something there's no purpose to it.
Well, if somebody wants to sit and chat with you,
Those are very valuable because you need to have friends.
Right.
Through chatting with them, you'll be able to find out what's going on in this person's life. You probably discover there's some way that you can help them out. If that's your intent, it's a good thing.
But it's still devarim b'telim.
It could be also that you've been working very hard and you need to relax.
Yeah.
A very good way to relax is to talk with somebody. But we're talking about the devarim b'telim that have no purpose. Which just like
Sometimes
time to kill, they say. What? Sorry.
Sometimes it's a connection with someone.
Yes, I'm saying that's something valuable.
Yeah.
But a person's always that little sentinel up there who's saying, is there a purpose behind this? That's what you need.
Yeah.
That it could be a purposeful life. You say, yeah, this is good. And you know what? Then when you realize that this is a valuable thing, you do it much better. Instead of just chatting to this person, whatever comes to your mind, you start listening to the other person. And you make a much stronger connection. Anytime you do something in a purposeful way, the quality of it greatly increases. As soon as you stop and think, why am I doing this? What good is coming out of this? You do it in a much, much better way. It just enhances all of your life. So I may be sitting here, I have to rush somewhere and stuff, and he starts talking to me. So I could just talk mindlessly, or I could think, wait, I have other things to do. Why am I talking to this person? Well, this person obviously needs a connection. They have things on their mind they want to talk out. So now because I stopped and I realized that, I'm going to be listening. And I'm not going to be looking at my watch all the time. I decided now I have time for this person because this is valuable. I'm going to really be listening. So that's a purposeful life, a meaningful life. But when it's just I hate the term killing time. It says, the rabbis say like this: people are concerned over loss of money, but they're not concerned over loss of time. Money you can make back. The time never returns. This day is gone. That moment is gone. It's never going to return.
Some say that time is money.
But it's much more. Time is much, much more than money. Much more. You lose something, you get another one. But each moment that comes into the world is a moment presenting you a new opportunity. It comes into the world, presents its opportunity, and then goes back. And you can't say, wait, come back. I changed my mind. It's gone. And that moment can never come back. Oh, Ramon and David Block were there waiting all the time. Sorry, Ramon and David Block. I didn't see that you were waiting there. But now you're in. So, so that's talking about dvarim b'telim. Now there's another term, bittul Torah. Bittul Torah means you could be learning Torah and you weren't learning Torah. Okay, so then we brought up, what about secular studies? Secular studies. You're going to study math, history, politics, whatever you're going to study. It's a serious study. You're putting your mind into it. It's constructive. You're learning wisdom and so on. So then he says, well, if it's a time for learning Torah and instead you're reading history, that's bittul Torah. Just the same. Well, I got a problem. He says, why just the same? This is constructive. Yeah, he says, but it's still bittul Torah. You could be learning Torah right now. So you have your hour set aside in the morning, or an hour set aside at night. This is my time for learning Torah. But instead, you decide to open a history book. It's bittul Torah. So it's dvarim b'telim. At another time, that history book would be valuable. Right now, it's dvarim b'telim, because it's your time for learning Torah. So, but then he goes on, he says that actually this, it's the last page, actually, 190, that he didn't print over here, where the clip effect on the mind. He says, Rabbi Shneur Zalman, he says, this is what I wrote. Rabbi Shneur Zalman now discusses how secular studies, when devoid of any higher purpose, immerse the intellect of the divine soul in tuma. Tuma, right? We didn't translate that because there isn't one. He will cite a Kabbalistic teaching to explain how these studies could have such an impact. This insight will illuminate the entire endeavor of intellectual inquiry. Okay, so let's look into it. So he says, and then there is another issue with secular studies aside from bittul Torah, Torah neglect. Although they are both klippus noga, right? The tuma of secular studies reaches beyond the tuma of empty words. So this person's just wasting their time is one type of tuma, but the tuma of secular studies goes far beyond. So we're talking about somebody who's learning secular studies, and you ask him, what's your purpose? And he says, next time I'm at a party and people are going to talk, I'll be able to show off my knowledge of this thing and people will respect me. I don't know. Because it's just I'm interested in it, or just because, but do you see any purpose to it? I want to get a degree. Why do you want to get the degree? Because, get a doctorate. People call me doctor or have better status. So he says, it sounds very innocent. There's a very deep tuma here. A very deep tuma in this. This gets in dangerous ground. It's a very dangerous ground. For me, I get very nervous talking about this because I have a whole library of this stuff. And but he's talking. But I have to qualify that he's talking about learning this with no higher purpose. You have no higher purpose to it. So if you're watching Netflix with no higher purpose, that's one degree. But it's a much different degree of tuma when you're learning something that your mind really has to be engaged in to understand it, and there's no purpose there. It's much deeper. This is a person who you're talking about a person who puts his mind into academic studies. It's a different type of tuma than a person who's putting his mind into some nonsense on TV.
I have a problem with that.
Okay, that's good you have a problem, because that's exactly what we're discussing. That's exactly what we're discussing. So let's see the whole big field and see what he's going to say first.
Take somebody like Rabbi Sachs.
Rabbi Sachs?
Yes, Jonathan Sachs.
Yeah.
He studied philosophy.
Yes, and economics, yeah.
It's clear that he did study.
Yes, very.
But he's still in my mind, it's studying.
Yeah.
The Rebbe studied mathematics.
The Rebbe studied at the Sorbonne under the greatest minds in Europe at the time, and at the University of Berlin first of all, and then at the Sorbonne.
So was what he was doing then.
And not only that, there were, I know of several cases, people who came in for a private audience with the Rebbe, and instead of them getting information, the Rebbe asked them questions and learned their whole field from them while they were there in the office.
Is that the body of the telling?
No, there was the electrician who came in for a private audience, and the Rebbe asked him what he was doing. This is solid state electronics, and this was new. So the Rebbe hadn't studied solid state electronics. He knew the vacuum tube stuff. So they took out paper and pencil, and the guy taught him the whole thing, worked it all out. Oh, thank you very much. Okay, so I was very fascinated with it. So this is what we want to examine, because this has been a long standing controversy since the times of Hanukkah. And it was really what the whole Hanukkah issue was all about. The Greeks came with their Greek philosophy, okay? And they had gone beyond the Persians, beyond the Egyptians in many ways. And it was very fascinating. And they were, there's a Hellenization of the Mediterranean. They came with these ideas, and Jews lapped it up. No, the ancient Greeks called the Jews a nation of philosophers. It appears several times in their texts. A nation of philosophers. They lapped us up. And it created a great issue, because people were saying, we're philosophers now. We don't need all this other stuff. We don't need this Shabbos thing. We don't need bris milah. We don't need this. We're philosophers now.
On the other hand,
so from that point on, it kept on going throughout history, and especially in the times of the Arabic empires. And they were also great philosophers in Persia and Egypt at the time. Al-Farabi, Ibn Rushd, Ibn Sina, and Jews were very much involved in this. Every time this was a huge conflict within the Jewish world, dealing what is our relationship to Chokhmah that's outside of Torah. And the rabbi said, if they will tell you there is wisdom, Chokhmah, amongst the Goyim, believe them. If they will tell you there is Torah, don't believe them. Okay, but so it's a huge issue, yeah.
That's a different kind of wisdom. If you look in the Kuzari, he mentions Socrates, he talks about a wisdom that comes from God, whereas we got the wisdom from the Torah. Which is
there are Dan Yitzhak Benel, and he's not the only one, who says, who has such praise for Plato, like he's a godly man.
Mm-hmm. The Rambam?
The Ralbag talks about Aristotle. Like anything Aristotle said, he can't be wrong. Chastai Kreska says anything that Aristotle said has to be wrong. And Ralbag said no. Anyway, there was a huge conflict all the time between the two. So hold on, but it's not only that. Throughout the Talmud, you'll find probably most of the Chachamim were so well versed in medicine, in astronomy, in geometry, in all these fields. They were very well dressed. Shemuel, who said that he knows the places of the stars in the heavens as well. He knows the streets of his own town. He's got it down. And Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel had charts in his home, all the charts of all the stars and movements of the planets and everything. Who invented the astrolabe? The astrolabe is that made possible travel through the oceans. Right? This was Avram Zakuto. This is one of the greatest technologies of history. Was the astrolabe and the astronomical charts for navigators. That's what made nautical sciences, that you could travel to the seas. Without that, there's no way Da Gama could have gotten to India. There's no way that Columbus could have gotten to America. But this was the work of Avram Zakuto. And also the Rabbi. The Rabbi made first they call it the Jacob's staff. It was, you could look up the stars and see and adjust it and figure out where you were. But Zakuto made an astrolabe out of metal, so you could take it on a ship. Even with the ship moving, you could adjust it. And he made a book of all the charts for wherever you were in the world. You could figure out where you were, your latitude and longitude. And that's what made possible the expansion of Europe throughout the entire world. So he was a great Talmud Chacham. Sefer Yuchsin he wrote. So the Rambam was a great doctor. We have texts from him on medicine.
The Rambam Shmone King is pure Aristotle. The middle road.
Yeah, there's discussion on whether he's pure Aristotle
That's from Aristotle.
Yeah, but it reads very much like Aristotle. Yeah. So there's this huge.
Maybe I know.
No, because it's
I
this
trust her.
the Maharal Maharal of Prague, Rabbi Yehuda of Prague, was also an astronomer and mathematician. So, but even in all the ages, you had many of the Chachamim were great in all these what we call today sciences.
How would the world function without secular knowledge?
Sorry?
How would the world function without secular knowledge?
Yeah.
I mean, how are you going to eat? How are you going to...
Yeah, I mean, Torah demands it because, for example, we need to figure out when is the new moon, and to drill witnesses. To do that, you have to have a very good knowledge of astronomy and trigonometry as well to figure these things out. Torah demands that we know with animals, all these things about animals, which type of blemish will disappear, which type is permanent. What makes which one can the animal survive, which can it not survive? You have to know if somebody comes to you on Shabbos and they're not feeling well, what kind of an illness is this? How much can it affect a person? A rabbi has to know medicine. Like on Yom Kippur, you have to know medicine. Somebody says, I'm not feeling well, should I eat? No, you have to have some knowledge of medicine to know. So Torah forces that you have to know these things. Many things with mikveh that you have to have knowledge of mathematics and geometry to work it out. So this is what he's saying. Right. So we got a problem here. And that's okay. That's what learning Torah is about. We've got a problem over here, but we're going to get to the bottom of it. Okay? So hold on.
Rabbi, I just want to point out one thing, but learning to make a parnasa.
We're getting there.
Oh, okay.
Hold on.
No, I was just going to.
This is just the tension, this is like the cliffhanger right now, but hold on, we're getting there. So first of all, what happens? He says, empty words, page 191. Empty words envelop your divine soul.
Yes, thank you.
Empty words. Empty words envelop your divine soul only at an emotional level, infecting those emotions that emerge from her holy element of air. So, like I said, everything is an investment. Dvarim B'Telim is an investment of your emotions. And you're investing your emotions into klippa, because it's purposeless. If it has purpose, then it's not klippa, then it's kedusha. If you're talking to a person because you need to connect and hear what's going on in this person's life, it's kedusha. That's holy. It's a holy conversation, right? Even if you're talking to because I need to relax so I can get back to that. It's holy. It's purposeful. Anything purposeful, meaningful is holy. We're talking about wasting time. Okay, then it's an emotion. You're investing your emotions into the thin air, into klippa. That's because these empty words emerge from the animalistic soul's bad klippa element of air, as explained earlier. That enables them to affect the emotions of the divine soul related to her holy element with her tuma of klippas noga. So now the divine soul is affected by this person's dvarim b'telim. It's a big thing. It's a big thing. The divine soul is being affected by you wasting time. And if you really think about it, you're not going to waste any time. They do not, however, affect your divine soul's intellectual modalities, chachma, bina, das. Why don't they affect your chachma and das? Because they're stupid, meaningless words that idiots and ignoramuses could also speak. In other words, it doesn't take any investment of your mind. So the mind of the divine soul is still okay. Not so secular studies. And we're not talking about secular studies that are, you're not learning about idolatry or something like that, or learning how to steal and murder. No, you're learning things that exist. They're intellectual, that's all. But studying them means investing your divine soul's faculties of Chachma, Bina, and Das within the tomb of Klippas Noga that these wisdoms contain, thereby infecting those faculties with that tuma. So the problem is not how deep the tuma is, because it's not a tuma that's awesome, it's Klippas Noga. The problem is you're totally invested in it. It's one thing to invest your emotions in something. It's a much deeper thing to invest your mind into something. See the difference? If your emotions are invested in something, your head is still above the water, above the mud, and your head can pull you out of there. But if your head's stuck in there, what's going to pull you out? Now, tell me that you haven't seen a person whose head has been stuck in the mud of his own academic intellectual games. You know, the sophisticated person who seems now incapable of the true human experience because he's so tied up with his intellectual world. You know what type of person I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think I do, but there's a different type of academic intellectual that is invested in Judaism as well.
Yeah. We're getting to that. We're talking about somebody who is invested in these things. For example, he always wanted to have a doctorate. Why does he want to have a doctorate? People respect you when you have a doctorate. He likes being an intellectual. Why? Because an intellectual is above the rest of the people. He loves intellect. He loves the world of intellect. But there's no higher purpose to it. I tell you, it's a very sorry world. Try to explain, because I know some of the people there. There's a very personal experience that there's a type of intellectuality. First of all, there's the intellectual who feels, I must be aloof, I must be objective. The problem is objectivity is impossible. There's no such thing. Or you can pretend to be aloof, pretend to be, and therefore, you understand everybody else, all these peons, non-academic, they're subjective. I have the objective truth. And you start getting a sense of these people, they have their religion, they have their beliefs. They say, but I have truth because I'm an intellectual. It's a very deep tuma. It's a very deep tuma. And it becomes very difficult to experience the emotions and the human experience of real life and what's going on with people. Okay? This is what happens mostly, I would say, in the humanities, this type of tuma. But in the sciences as well. It's a famous line from Dawkins that felt that anybody who disagrees with him, I can't remember if it was on evolution or on religion or something like that, they have to be either ignorant, stupid, or insane. That type of closed-mindedness where you believe that you are being liberal, that your mind is open and everybody else is closed-minded, but you're the most closed-minded person around.
I think there are a lot of those around. Look at the professors at the universities that are pro-Hamas.
There you have it.
No, I'm serious.
Yeah. But they believe that they are the liberals.
But there's no objectivity.
And there's no objectivity.
There's no objectivity.
But there's also no, what about Jews who do that? And there are them.
Okay, yeah.
There's no feeling
But
of love
why
for your
is
country
it?
or your,
Why is it, for
your
example?
people.
Why is it that the most anti-Semitic place today is the academy?
Yeah.
Why? And it's nothing new. It's nothing new because the same thing happened in Nazi Germany.
My point, yes.
And the fact is that in the communist bloc, in communist Russia, the worst anti-Semitism Jews faced in communist Russia, and I don't know if it's still that way today, was in university campus. When you had just this, you were a better student than all the other students, but they failed you. So it seems the greatest bigotry has been amongst those who believe they are the intelligentsia. And the greatest evil that was perpetrated in humanity came from the intelligentsia. Those who were, especially in the 20th century, but beforehand as well.
George Orwell said, only the intelligentsia could think something like that. No ordinary person can be that stupid.
Yes.
That nobody could.
George Orwell said something like this. Only the intelligentsia can say something like it or think something like that. No ordinary person can be that stupid.
Yeah. No, but you can't be but not just stupid. You know, a Tartar, a Mongol, a Kazakh can only be such a barbarian. But to make concentration camps, you have to be an intellectual. The final solution, almost everybody sitting that meeting, those who made those decisions, had postgraduate degrees.
A barbaric intellectual.
No, because now you can justify everything. You can justify everything. People don't realize this. The Germans invented modern academia. Our concept today of the research university, funded by the government, right, and where the professors are supposed to be doing the research there, and the multidisciplinary and so on. This was Germany from 1820 on. And the greatest universities, Humboldt University was Humboldt's idea to begin with. The University of Berlin was the Humboldt University. Probably most of the great intellects of the world were living in Germany.
Yes. The height of civilization.
That was the height of civilization. It was the most educated country in history.
But they distorted it.
But it takes an intellectual to create such distortion.
That's what George Orwell said.
I have that quote because I have a friend that I correspond with in California, and he has this at the bottom of every letter. Some people are so stupid that only intellectuals believe them. George Orwell.
Some people are so stupid that only intellectuals believe them. Okay, good. Some people,
Is that right?
George Orwell. Some people are so stupid that only intellectuals believe them. Beautiful. Okay, so what happens? What happens to these people? Why is it? How is it? The paradox of it, that educating the mind closes it up. Because if you read Plato, the opposite is supposed to happen. Right? And Rambam says the same thing, that all you need to cure the world is more das. People will know more, and then it will be a good world. And it doesn't work. We proved it. It was an experiment called the 20th century, and we proved that knowledge does not make peace and harmony. And today, you take out this little thing in your pocket, and here you have almost the entirety of human knowledge on the entire planet, in your pocket, in your hand. And you open it up and you look, and what do you get? You get about genocide in Gaza. Lies, right? You have access to all the truth in the world. And what is it telling you? So how is it that wisdom leads to lies and knowledge leads to cruelty and understanding leads to coldness?
1 by 1, 3, 2.
Sickness. Well, how does it happen?
Free choice.
So, okay, this is a big problem. How does it happen? So now we get an explanation. For this, the Alter Rebbe says we have to resort to Kabbalah. And
what?
so some Kabbalah on page 192. This is known to those familiar with Kabbalistic teachings. During the process of creation, when the containment of divine light shattered, these wisdoms detached from the externalities of Chachma, of holiness, and fell into Klippa. They remain there and cause Tuma unless you elevate them back to holiness. Okay, so I will now explain, because for those who didn't get what I just said, which is, okay, this is called Shvirata Kelim, right? Okay, what's happening is God is creating the world. So the world's created with 10 sfirot, and they're all containment of light. You know, we have mass and energy, you have structure and information. Anyways, at this point, what does God do? He floods the containment with intense light, and everything shatters. In other words, he creates with a big bang, with an explosion. Now, what happens when structures explode? When structures explode, we have something called rapid entropy. You lose information, and you get disorder. And you cannot trace back the precedent to this antecedent. You know, the concept, right? As soon as, like, after an explosion, you can't look at the pieces and figure out how you put them together again, or how they got there. It's just chaos. You know, you can, on a computer, you can always hit undo. Right? There's always an undo button. You go back and back and back and back. Okay. Why? Because everything in the computer happens step by step. We're in low power mode, and there's no charger over here. What can you do? Yeah, you guys might disappear. I don't know. Got 10% battery here, and he didn't leave me a charger. Anyways, so you can always, because it's all linear. God did not make the world using a computer process. Along the way, he made an explosion. And in that explosion, information is lost, and you can't put things in reverse. You can't go back and see how things were before. And our world is all the shattered pieces from that explosion. And in this world, he takes the Adam, who comes from the world of Tikkun, puts into this world, and the mission of Adam is to pick up all the pieces and put them back together again. Ultimately, Adam is given the Torah, and the Torah is instructions how to put the pieces back together again. But that's what human beings do. Human beings take various parts of the world, stick them, reconnect them back together, and create value in everything that we do. We make connections, and with making these connections, we bring the world back closer to its pristine state. And what we're attempting to do, whether we know it or not, is to reconstruct those original kalim, but this time they'll be firm enough to be able to contain that intense light. That's, in short, the whole story of the shattering of kalim, of structure. But if you want more about it, you can take this home and read something of it. And if you want even more, you just have to look up, what's his name? Shannon, information theory, and so on, and entropy there, because it's very, very similar ideas. But that's for another time, maybe next week. So what happened now? In this shattering, there are 10 sfirot that shattered, right? Actually, the truth is, the first 3 did not really shatter. The first 2, Chochmah, Bina, didn't really shatter. Malchut also didn't really shatter. Okay, but Chochmah, Bina sort of shattered. Chochmah didn't shatter at all, except the external, very external part of Chochmah did break off and shatter and fall into our world. But Chochmah never entered our world altogether, which is why people don't make wise decisions. They just do what they feel like doing, because Chochmah never fell into our world. But the most externalities of Chochmah did fall in. What are those externalities of Chochmah? Well, the internal Chochmah is God knowing himself, like we learned about in chapter 2. The externalities of Chochmah is God thinking about a world. If I would have a world, what would the world be like? What would have time? That's a good idea. Space, okay. What should 1 and 1 be? Make it be 2, okay. That sort of thing. All those decisions. So what shattered and fell into the world, because even that Chochmah wouldn't understand, but once it shatters and falls into the world, then we can grasp it, is the Chochmah, the science of the world, how the world works. It fell into Klippa. It's shattered, it's fragmented, and fell into Klippa, which means when you grab it with the mud around it, the Klippa with all the noise that comes with it. But there's some truth in there. And in that truth is somehow connected, if you could find some way to reconnect it, to the truth of Torah. The truth of Torah being that which never shattered, never fell into the world. So now what happens is if a person picks up this stuff within Klippa and has no connection to Torah, he has it as it is, fragmented and within the Klippa. And it's something like eating a nut with its shell, eating the banana with the peel. And that gets kind of bloated. So you have bloated minds. That's what happens to them. And the Chochmah, it says Yavan, the Greece is Yavan, right? Ancient Greece is Yavan. It's a Yud, and then a Vav, and then a long Nun. The Yud is Chochmah. The Vav is you bringing, the Chochmah falls down to the world. And the Nun is a long line going down, down, down into the mud, into the Klippa. So this type of Chochmah pulls a person down because it's stuck in the Klippa. It's not the Chochmah itself that's pulling him down. The wisdom itself is the spark of good that's inside. It's the Klippa, the culture of the wisdom that pulls him down. And all of the Chochmah in our world is in this culture. That's a terrible Klippa. Not terrible because it's so sinister, but because it suffocates. It's a suffocating because it grasps the entire person, pulls the whole entire person into it. So that's the explanation, according to Kabbalah, why intellectuals can be the meanest, nastiest people in the world and support the worst causes. Not because of the science themselves, but because of the clip of the culture in which it comes to us in this world. Okay, so what do we do about it? That he explains. So he says, they remain there and cause tumah unless you elevate them back to holiness. How do you elevate them back to holiness? One way so how do you take that spark that fell into this klippa and reconnect it back to its place where it was before the shattering of the Shvirat HaKelim, right? How do you do that? One way to do that, listen, Noreen, is to treat them as a hatchet to chop wood, which means to earn ample income for more time and resources to serve God. You learn them, you study them to make a living. Why are you studying to make a living? You can make a living without studying. Yeah, but if I study them, I'll make lots and lots of money. Well, what are you going to do without lots of money? Well, I have more time and resources for serving God. What if you study them and you end up working an 80-hour week? You flunked out. Okay, you learn them and study them so that you only have to work a 40 or 20-hour week, and the rest of the time you can devote you to studying Torah and doing good things. That's why you're doing it. Now you took those secular studies and you connected them to Torah. Or another way, you know how to use them to connect to God with love, with fear, and through prayer. Or another way, you're able to bring them into your study of His Torah. So to connect it with love and fear and prayer, okay, listen, you're saying every morning, Sukkot de Zimra, all these things about all God's creation and the wonders of God's creation, and you're saying, God, you're so wonderful, look what a beautiful creation, all the animals, and God says, you serious about that? Yeah, I think so. If you're serious about it, how come you don't go and study more about it and see how really, truly amazing it really is? If you really mean it, go and learn more and see how fantastic what a creation it is. So when you study these things, you're better able to praise God and appreciate what a fantastic creator he is. And that brings you to love and fear of him. And you're better able to dive into it. Or your study of Torah, like we said, with astronomy, with medicine, all these things that you need for that. And this was the rationale of Rambam, Ramban, and their colleagues who engaged in these studies. That's why the rabbis learned these studies, because they knew that they were able to use them for Torah. And they did. They used them for Torah. And what they couldn't use if they knew they couldn't use it for Torah, they wouldn't study it. I talked about Avram Zakuto. Before he went and wrote that book with all the laws and everything, he asked senior rabbis, am I allowed to do this, or is it Bittul Torah? They said, no, it's not Bittul Torah, because it can be used for Torah. So all of these things. The same study that can pull a person down, as soon as you connect it to Torah, it pulls you up. And in fact, it makes your Torah learning much, much more vivid and real. Because when you're studying about something as it is in Torah, okay, it's one thing. Now you look and can see it in the microscope, and you can work out the math, and it becomes a reality to you. It means much, much more. The Rebbe gave the example of, you understand through Torah the oneness of God. When you study sciences today, you see that oneness within the creation. It's a universe. It's one. That even matter and energy are one. Everything works as one. It's one perfect whole. So the Torah says, yeah, I understand it. It says, here, I see it. I can see it. I can touch it. So then, on the contrary, that type of chachma, that learning it in that way, is a very high level of learning Torah, much greater. Besides the fact that you can use the technology used for take Torah throughout the world and use it in other ways. So then it becomes a good thing, a very good thing. But always with each thing, you have to stop and ask the question, what is the divine purpose in what I am doing? And that's the path of a Jew. In everything we do, there's a divine purpose. If there's no divine purpose, it's klippa. If there is a divine purpose, it's hard. So everything's okay now. You can go back and study all those books. Just think why. Personally, I have them by the bathtub, in the kitchen, in the sunroom, all over. My father would take us as kids to the public library. He'd go in and take shelves full of books, his grab books. He went with these piles of books, checked them all out, filled the back seat with all the books. And then when he got home, he made sure there would be books left in every room. So wherever you went, you would come across a book. Okay. That's how I grew up. So I keep on reading books, but with a purpose, with a higher purpose. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Hope to see you again next week, same time, same station. Please read all the notes that are inside and greatly enhance the lesson. Thank you.
Yes, graag.